Dagenham and Redbridge FC are in a complete mess. They're on the brink of relegation to regional football and are now even part owned by an Egyptian YouTuber. But how have we ended up here? Well, the Daggers are a historic club with their roots dating back to the 1880s, but over the past year or so the club has faced some massive problems both on and off the pitch. They currently sit 21st in the National League, 5 points from safety at the time of recording, and have only won 10 out of 42 games this season. Back in 2024, the club was taken over by a consortium called Club Underdog, in conjunction with a US-based firm called North Sixth Group, which has ties to the former American goalkeeper Tim Howard. Fans have been protesting with banners and even a small pitch invasion at one game this season in anger at the club's current position, but on Monday night the situation got a whole lot worse in the eyes of lots of Daggers fans. The club announced that Egyptian YouTuber Marwan Serry has become a part owner of Dagenham and Redbridge FC in order to, and I quote, grow the club through creativity, community and storytelling. Now, I hadn't heard of this YouTuber before, but to be fair to him, he's got almost 1 million subscribers on his personal channel and is part of another channel which focuses on English football in the Premier League, which has over 1.5 million subscribers. Although the reason I probably haven't seen them before is that they're both completely in Arabic. Now, this huge following has been made clear, with the announcement post gaining millions of impressions on Twitter, hundreds of thousands of likes on Facebook, and on Instagram, well, you can see behind me, their follower count has been ticking up and up and up. They were on less than 20,000 before the announcement was made, but at the time of recording, now on the Tuesday night, they've got over 213,000, and you can even see as I'm recording this video every few seconds that follower count is ticking up still. However, Daggers fans have been unhappy with this, feeling that the club should be more focused on just staying up, not becoming the next Wrexham. So lots of them have been complaining on social media, and these complaints have been met with some unsavoury responses from these Marwan Serry superfans from the Middle East, who have effectively now taken over the Dagenham and Redbridge social media accounts. Alongside Marwan Serry, someone called Salma Mashur has also been brought in as the Director of Development and Engagement, so I assume that's also to do with the online YouTube side of things, although this is where the situation also becomes somewhat political, because Salma Mashur has allegedly supported Hamas on social media, a proscribed terrorist organisation here in the UK, whilst lots of the Dagenham fans have expressed their support for Israel. So both sides are now unfortunately using the Israel-Palestine conflict to get their points across and to point score, making the situation very unsavoury and just very messy. And there's even accusations of racism coming from both sides as well in these arguments that have been happening online over the past 24 hours. There are of course some obvious positives of having someone famous at your club. We've seen it at Wrexham, we've seen it at Birmingham City over the past couple of years. And someone called Mohammed Al Safin messaged me on Twitter and expressed his support for the new owners, saying that he understands Dagenham fans' emotions, but feels that it's important to give Marwan Serry a chance to show his intentions. The new wave of support from the Middle East will boost the club financially and bring long-term benefits in his opinion. However, in my personal opinion, I think that the fact that it's a YouTuber from the Middle East is quite a big problem. All of his YouTube videos, like I mentioned, are in Arabic, so I reckon there'll be some communication and understanding problems. And also, at least if it was a big YouTuber from England, for example, then lots of their fans who live in England may come to Dagenham games, buy a scarf or a pin badge, and that will actually help the club. But because these Marwan Serry fans all live in the Middle East, thousands of miles away, I just can't see it happening. I can't see them flying to England to come and watch a Dagenham game and actually support the club. I think it's going to be a short-lived PR move where within a few months' time lots of these people will have forgotten that Dagenham and Redbridge even exist. I spoke to some Dagenham fans to find out their opinions.
So this new group came in, they said they want to restore Dagenham to, what it was, underdogs.
They've barely been to any games. They've been to 2 home games all season. They've had a really bad relationship with the fans.
I think with the fans, it's a bit of a trust thing now. we've had our fingers burnt by previous owners for like the last, I don't know, 8 or 9 years since we dropped out of the Football League.
Despite the FA Cup run, which was amazing, a series of really disastrous decisions have seen us free fall towards what, as we sit here today, is most likely, if not impending, relegation to regional football, which we haven't been in since before the turn of the millennium.
I think a big reason that a lot of fans are unhappy is the way our previous manager Ben Strevens was sacked.
The former manager Ben Strevens was a club legend, is a club legend, regardless. He was part of the club's best ever era as a player, and you could tell his infectious desire to bring that back as a manager. He was a hugely popular manager and really embodied everything Dagenham was about.
I think quite a lot feel that he was sacked unfairly.
They brought in our assistant manager as permanent manager, who's 35 and has got no manager experience at all.
Bear in mind, you don't really ever see assistant managers get the job unless it's a manager who's moved on to better things and they want to keep a good kind of continuity going.
There's been a bit of chat, especially coming from like the Elliot Justin interview the other day, that the way he got appointed was a bit, I don't know if snaky would be the right word, but by the sounds of what Elliot Justin said, he said, like, if Ben Strevens goes, I'm going to go because like I'm his assistant manager. And then next thing you know, Ben Strevens does get sacked. Lewis Young takes temporary charge for a little bit. And I don't believe that during his sort of spell as interim, he done anything to earn the right to be Dagenham manager.
He's got a lot of pressure on him from fans to either leave the football club, which I don't think he will, or for the owners to sack him.
Quite a few experienced players have been sort of let go or isolated or moved on. So the players who had a bit of affinity with the supporters, such as Justin, he was moved on.
We don't have a lot of money, and the players we are signing mostly have no experience in this league.
What we're left with is a lot of players who haven't been here for a very, very long time, sort of short-term deals, young loanies, and again, it's especially on the young loanee players, they're getting chucked right in at the deep end. I'm sure they're great players, but they're not the sort of player that you need to try and keep you in this league. Do you know what I mean? So the Egyptian who's on board, it couldn't have been at a worse time, really, because there was a podcast released yesterday as well, interviewing Elliot Justin. And he pretty much detailed all that was going on behind the scenes and all that's wrong with the club at the moment and the way it's run.
The first most of us saw of this YouTuber was the Tamworth game, which was a real flashpoint in terms of, protests after the game, and everything really turned ugly for what felt like the first time, properly turned. He was in the stand with fans and this woman that he's come into the club with, basically vlogging for YouTube, and he seemed to be reveling in the entertainment of it all. This is a football club at rock bottom.
The guy himself, I think he's called Marwan. He said himself, like, he thinks it's like FIFA, and his wife or girlfriend, whoever she is, she's been given a role, and she said he just wants to be involved in a team from London who wear red.
There was a poll on Instagram about who should he buy, us or Leighton Orient, or who should he invest into. It's all just it's all a joke. It's like Football Manager. And he said he's an Arab with not a lot of money, but purports to take us to the Premier League. I'm not quite sure how that works.
He would have been better off coming in and saying, I'd like to stabilise the club in the National League and maybe look to get back into the Football League in the future. But he's talking about the Premier League, and that's what we're dealing with.
There's also been like a petition put up online to already get rid of him. He was only announced yesterday.
And a quick side note from me, Thomas here. What you can see on screen right now is the petition mentioned by Charlie with over 300 signatures. But when I was looking for that, I came across this one, a counter-protest or a counter-petition set up by a fan of Marwan Serry, which has over 3,500 signatures, which is an incredible amount for a problem of this nature. And I think just really amplifies the craziness of the influence that this guy does hold.
It's increasing exposure, definitely, but the problem is the exposure is in Egypt, so it's not going to get more fans through the gates. It's not going to give us any sort of support that the players can thrive off.
I don't see any way that this is possibly positive. Look at the reaction on social media. You know, the club's pages on Facebook, Instagram have been hijacked by hundreds of thousands of comments, Arabic comments, Egyptians arguing with our own supporters.
Well, it's Wednesday now, and tonight we're off to Victoria Road, the home of Dagenham Redbridge FC, to attend a fans forum, which is going to be hosted by club chairman Daniel Hall, first team manager Lewis Young, and their managing director Steve Thompson. So this should make for an interesting evening. Well, as you can see, we're here now at Victoria Road. We're here at the stadium, starting to fill up. We've got about an hour until the event kicks off. So like I say, this should be an interesting one. Hopefully it's not just another night of deflecting the blame and sort of not answering questions fully. Hopefully it is an evening though where we can get some concrete answers for these Dagenham fans. As if the atmosphere in the room wasn't toxic enough already, the night started with an announcement that the manager, Lewis Young, wasn't able to be there because he was preparing for the Daggers game on Friday.
With a massive game in 2 days' time, it was decided that it would be better off not being here tonight.
First of all, I am sorry for mistakes that have been made, mistakes made by me, mistakes made by Club Underdog, mistakes made by the club. And we've learned a lot this year, and as chairman I take responsibility for those mistakes.
There's no reason to get abusive. It's not abuse, tell that to the fucking Egyptians!
In recent days we've had the unnecessary noise about the Egyptian investment. This bloke who wants to play FIFA with our football club, despite to his own admission having not much money. And in addition to this, we've had an influx of Egyptian followers who in turn hijacked the club's social media pages, made it impossible to engage with our own football club, and are saying that they're claiming the football club, they're reclaiming our club, and it no longer belongs to us. Well, I must say, I'm starting to agree, this doesn't feel like the football club I fell in love with or recognise anymore, and we have to take responsibility for that.
Redbridge had the biggest Jewish community in Europe for over 70 years, and you've insulted all of them by what you've done. And you know what? Come next week, the editor of the JC will know about this, and it'll be in the national press, because I'm not going to stand by and let this happen.
Okay, so how much worse does it need to get then with these posts on social media for us to get rid of these fans on YouTube and source it?
As I said, the guy is going to tell his followers not to.
So what you're saying is, if Adolf Hitler was alive today and he had money and he wanted to invest in his club, you'd welcome it.
You talk about due diligence and you talk about telling their followers to stop, but you seem to have done no due diligence on these people who still have Instagram reels that condemn the legitimacy of Israel's right to exist. Now, I'm Jewish, but I no longer feel safe here. I want the club to refund the hospitality that I've got booked for the Altrincham game, because frankly, I do not want to be at this club any longer. They do not condemn Hamas. They do not condemn the atrocities of October the 7th, where I have many friends and distant family who were murdered, who were raped, and still held hostage. This is unacceptable for this club. And I want to put something to you. If you keep these people on board, there are many other clubs throughout the National League, throughout the whole football pyramid, who and Jewish supporters, how will they feel coming to Dagenham and Redbridge? Will they feel happy? I think not. And how does these people align with the Football Association's Kick It Out campaign? I think they don't. You need to get rid of them and get rid of them now if you want to get this club any chance of survival.
As it pertains to the Egyptians, they are investing and they are intended to not change the culture of this club. And let me finish, okay? Their intention is to drum up support abroad, okay? And that support allows us to get new sponsors, allows us to get new revenue streams, which makes this club sustainable and also allows us to grow.
We then heard from a guy called John, who's the club's chief commercial officer. He joined in January and was accused by lots of fans of almost revelling in their anger at a previous home game.
I don't know what you mean. I'll tell you what I'm talking about. Tamworth, end of the game, protest, kicking off, getting a bit ugly. You, on the pitch, with your mobile phone, massive grin on your face, huge smile, thinking it's an absolute joke.
There is no way that was me. No chance. Absolutely no chance.
I wish everybody the very best, and I hope you do change it and it does work out, but sorry, that's enough.
There were then some questions asked about this past season and the manager, Lewis Young.
And then would you like me to answer the question about Lou as well? So Lou, all I can talk about is what conversations I've had with people, okay? I wasn't in the dressing room, I wasn't between conversations of Elliot and Lou. I don't know what those two said and I don't know who's right and who's wrong and who's...
Why don't you know? It's because you're sitting in California, 5,000 miles, however many thousand miles away, you don't care. You don't care.
I do care.
Lewis has got 4 games left.
Right, some of you, I think, probably do know me, yeah? And I want the best for this club. We haven't had a good year, without question. Dan's admitted that. We've had an absolute shite year. But what we must do on Friday, you might say I'm taking rubbish, we must now support the players. Support the players we've got.
Well, that was a mess, to say the least. I think in hindsight they probably shouldn't have had that meeting anyway, especially at this time with such anger at the club. It seems stupid. I mean, nothing really came of that. I think every single supporter walking out of Victoria Road Stadium now is no happier, is no more at peace, has no more understanding of the situation at their club than they did when they first walked in here. It was a night, like I say, of anger, of tension. Passion was very, very high in the room from minute 1 to the end. I mean, it overran by about half an hour too. It was shouting, swearing, chanting, but you can see why these fans are so angry with the situation that their club is in at the moment. Of course, there was the sensitive issues with these new Egyptian investors allegedly supporting Hamas on social media. And I mean, Dan Hall, he never really committed to whether he's going to get rid of them or not. I think he said he's going to ask them to stop their supporters, stop the YouTube supporters from commenting on the Dagenham posts or something like that. But most of what he said, and Steve, the CEO as well, I believe, it was just sort of hearsay. Again, nothing committed to. And again, I mean, that was just a mess. I mean, I've been to so many clubs that have been in these sort of ownership issues, Reading, Southend, just to name a few, to do videos. And I think this may be probably the worst that I've been to, especially to be in a room with the owner and the fans there both at the same time. I mean, again, it's crazy, it's a mental situation, but it's something that we probably will see more come out of over the next days, weeks, months, as Dan Hall makes his decisions. Does he sack the manager? Does the club get relegated? Does he get rid of the Egyptians? That is all to be found out. Thank you very much for watching this video. Make sure to like, subscribe, share and comment, and I'll see you in the next one.